why the Hanafi Fiqh is associated with the Sahabi Abdullah ibn Masoud radiAllahu anhu. I did say in the beginning this is partly true, but it's not entirely true, in the sense that the Hanafi Fiqh is not just based on Abdullah ibn Masoud radiAllahu anhu's ahadith or his sayings and fatawi, but he does play a very integral and important role. On one occasion, it was reported to Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu that Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Masoud had given a fatwa about a question of mirath, inheritance. When Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu heard the fatwa, he said, "May Allah have mercy upon Abdullah ibn Masoud. Indeed, he was a faqih. Indeed, he was a jurist." Masruq was a famous tabi'i, and Amir al-Sha'bi was another famous tabi'i. Tabi'i is a successor to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Amir al-Sha'bi says himself that I saw more than 500 Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And Amir al-Sha'bi says of Masruq that I have never seen anyone, Sha'bi is a famous muhaddith, Amir al-Sha'bi, he said, I have never seen anyone more eager and more zealous in his search for knowledge than Masruq. And Masruq was one of the leading students of Abdullah ibn Masoud radiallahu anhu. And not only Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Masoud, Masruq travelled all over the Islamic world at the time and learned from Al-Mu'minin Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha, to the extent that it's been related that Masruq was actually adopted by Al-Mu'minin Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha. Meaning, not adopted as a child, but because of her love for him and respect for him and his zeal for learning, and because of the respect and the service that he offered to Al-Mu'minin Aisha radiallahu anha, she treated him as her own son. Masruq also learned of Amir al-Mu'minin Umar ibn al-Khattab and all of the Sahaba, many of the Sahaba in many different cities. The same Masruq says, after having studied under so many Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and having been treated as a son of al-Mu'minin Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha, he says, I have found the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be like pools of water. Some of them are pools that irrigate one man. There are pools that irrigate two men. There are pools that quench the thirst of 3 men. There are pools that quench the thirst of 10 men. And there are pools that if all of the people of the world were to come to them, they would be able to irrigate them and quench their thirst. And Abdullah ibn Masoud was one of them. The same Masruq also says that of all of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, the ilm of all of the Sahaba, the knowledge of all of the companions, is distilled and condensed and reaches the peak in 6 people. Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Masoud, Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, Sayyidina Abu Darda, Sayyidina Ubay ibn Ka'ab, and Sayyidina Zayd ibn Thabit radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. And then Masruq says, of all of these 6 people, the ilm of these leading 6 Sahaba is condensed and distilled in only 2 people, Ali ibn Abi Talib karramallahu wajhah and Abdullah ibn Masoud radiyallahu ta'ala. Now, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Masoud, as I said earlier, had thousands of students. Many of them were leading imams of their time, but probably the most famous was Alqama. And this Alqama, he wasn't a Sahabi, but he was a student of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Masoud and other Sahaba, senior Sahaba. But he was a very close companion and an attendant. He would wait upon Abdullah ibn Masoud radiyallahu anhu. So much so that Abdullah ibn Masoud himself said, whatever I know, Alqama knows. Allahu Akbar. What's a testimony on behalf of a non-Sahabi by a Sahabi. He said, whatever I know, Alqama knows. Alqama had again thousands of students. But probably his most famous student, who inherited the treasure of knowledge from the thousands of Sahaba residents in Kufa and in other areas also, was Ibrahim Nahai. And Alqama Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Masoud radiAllahu anhu said of him, that whatever I know, Alqama knows. Qabus relates that I once asked my father, that why do you go to Alqama and not the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? When the Sahaba are present, why do you go to Alqama for your knowledge? So his father replied to him and said, because I see the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam themselves refer to Alqama for knowledge. And this Alqama, he had again thousands of students, but probably his best student and most famous, and the Imam recognized by all, was Ibrahim Nahai. And Ibrahim Nahai himself was a tabi'i, a successor. He saw a number of Sahaba and learnt of them. But he was probably the most famous student of Alqama. And Allahu Akbar, what can be said of Ibrahim Nahai? The same Sha'bi who said he had seen 500 Sahaba radiallahu anhum, more than 500 Sahaba. When Ibrahim Nahai rahmatullahi alayhi passed away, he said to the people after the janazah, that you have buried the greatest jurist and the greatest faqih of mankind. The same Amir al-Sha'bi said. So someone said to him, what? Was Ibrahim Nahai a greater jurist, a greater faqih than even Hassan of Basra, meaning Imam Hassan al-Basri rahmatullahi alayhi? Sha'bi rahmatullahi alayhi replied that Ibrahim Nahai was a greater jurist and a greater faqih than even Hassan of Basra, than all of the people of Basra, than all of the people of Kufa, than all of the people of Sham, and all of the people of Hijaz. And then he said, may Allah have mercy on Ibrahim Nahai, for he grew up in a household of fiqh, and he learnt the best of fiqh from his family. Why? Because he was from the Nahai family. His uncle, his maternal uncle, was Aswad bin Yazid bin Qais al-Nakhai. He was one of the leading students of Abdullah ibn Masoud and Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab. And his uncle's uncle was Alqama. And he was also from the Nakhai family. So he had two great people to look up to into his own family, Alqama and Aswad. And they were the leading students of Abdullah ibn Masoud and Umar ibn al-Khattab and Sayyidina Ali and the others. So Amir al-Sha'bi said, may Allah have mercy on Ibrahim al-Nakhai. He grew up in a house of fiqh, and he mastered fiqh, and he gained the best of fiqh. And then he would sit with us, and he gained the best of hadith, and he combined the best of hadith and fiqh. When I mourn his loss, I mourn the loss of knowledge. Ibrahim al-Nakhai was asked, who should we refer to after your death? He said, Hammad. And Hammad was a leading jurist, the leading scholar of hadith and fiqh, of ilm. After Ibrahim al-Nakhai, he became Ibrahim al-Nakhai's successor, because Ibrahim al-Nakhai himself said, after me refer to Hammad. And the scholars of Kufa came together, and after Ibrahim al-Nakhai's death, they appointed Hammad ibn Abi Sulaiman as their shaykh and their leader. And Hammad ibn Abi Sulaiman, his most famous student, and his leading student, was none other than Nu'man bin Thabit Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Now this is the chain. And when Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi used to sit and discuss the masail of deen, he wouldn't just take his opinion. Many ulama have recorded in their books that Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi had a consultant of 40 men. And these 40 men would sit with him and discuss the masail of deen. Sometimes they would deliberate on one mas'ala for 3 days. And only when they were all satisfied and more or less agreed on that issue would they record it in a book as a mas'ala of fiqh. It wasn't just the one errant or arbitrary opinion of one man. And who were the 40? Allahu Akbar. Of the 40 who used to sit with Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi were the leading students of the whole of the ulama of Kufa. And amongst Imam Abu Hanifa's students, one alim writes in one of his books about the group of 40 who would sit with Imam Abu Hanifa and who would be consulted by Imam Abu Hanifa and who would deliberate with him on these matters of religion. He says they were Qubara al-Qubara, meaning the greatest of the greatest. And they included Imam Abu Yusuf, Dawud al-Ta'i, Imam Muhammad bin Hassan al-Shaybani, Imam Zufar, Imam Hassan, and many others.